Welcome back to the Praying and Slaying podcast, a Light the Fire Outdoors production. This is part 2 of the Turkey Taker series with our first ever guest, Bonce Stanley, as the guys pick his brain on his journey of chasing the U.S. Super Slam for turkeys. With that, let's jump back in with John, Jeremy, Aaron, and Bonce.
So what kind of locator calls do you like to use?
An owl call. Yep, owl call. Coyote call out west. I've used peacock, Canada goose call.
Peacock? Were you in Florida?
Yeah. No, just anywhere. Peacock calls work really well.
What?
Yeah,
That's
seriously.
awesome.
They it's a loud.
Can you do a peacock
noise.
call for us?
I cannot because I don't have my call with me.
Okay. I've never heard a peacock call. That's interesting.
It's like a but it's
Okay.
a much higher pitched, really loud noise.
Do you
And
use
turkey
many
call-
locator? Do you use many locator calls during the course of the day if you're trying to obviously locate one?
Generally, no. I use a cut or a yelp, just a louder sequence and try to get them to gobble that way.
Sure.
Or owl calls. I'll use an owl call throughout the entire day. I've heard owls at all times of the day, and so I will owl call throughout the day as well.
Nice.
If I'm in a spot that has owls, like I don't know that you have barred owls out in Montana.
I don't
I don't
think we
think
got
so.
barred owls, or at least I haven't seen them. I've actually got to get my bird book out, man. I've seen several different species that I've never seen in like Iowa growing up and stuff, but they're usually quiet and you usually like run across them because you're sneaking through some woods or something like that. And next thing you know, one dives out of a tree and cruises, across a creek bottom or something like that. But usually in the morning, that's actually interesting. I never really thought much about it, but you don't hear a lot of calls in the morning with the exception of your basic like songbirds and turkeys.
Right. Another one
the
that
bottom
works,
to Benton.
I was just saying, another one that works out west is an elk bark.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah, we the first time we were in New Mexico, my buddy bumped a bunch of elk and they were barking, and that was making the turkeys go nuts for him. And he said it was, other than being petrified that he was going to get run over by an elk in the dark, he said that worked great because he was able to get really close to them because they kept barking. They were smelling him, and so they were barking and running around, and that was making the turkeys gobble. And it was a really cool hunt he had.
That's cool. So I have one question about your morning hunt. So one of the things that I guess I'm like you, I've never done it, but I've always been under the assumption that basically if you could get underneath a turkey's tree, he's within shooting distance generically when he flies down. But are they, in your experience, like, are you using a headlamp or like, how are you getting in underneath him without him really? I mean, you said you want to be there before he wakes up. What's your tactic for not waking him up, but also trying to get in there safely? Because in my mind, like most of the places I've hunted birds, like I would want a headlamp trying to get in there in pitch black darkness.
Why would you want a headlamp?
Because I'm scared of the dark.
Okay. I just wanted to know if it was something like a mountain lion, that's
No.
a little bit different than
I mean more for like just navigational purposes, trying to get like, because the woods look totally different in daylight than they do in the dark. So if there's no full moon, if there's a full moon, I might not be so concerned. But if I'm trying to get to a very specific tree or within a vicinity of a tree, like I'd want to make sure, I guess for stealth's sake, really, that I'm not breaking all the branches I can break on the way in or tripping over a log that may be down on the ground I don't see or things like that.
right. There's a couple different things that I use. I do have a headlamp, but I most of the time don't use it because it's a really bright headlamp. I also carry a small little pin light that's got older AAA batteries in it. That's very dim. And then I also will put my hand over that if I need that little bit of extra light to get into a place. Even with that though, once I get close to a turkey, I'll cut out all lights and I'll just go really, really slow. Like I wasn't kidding about it taking 2 hours to cover the last 50 yards. If that's what's needed, 50 yards isn't that far, but if that's what's needed to get there, then I will do that. I'll just inch along and feel my way through to kind of get to where I need to go. So like before I'll get there, I'll study on X, and I'll just get my bearings in my head that I need to go, this direction. And it really helps if you have terrain. Here where I live in Delaware, there's not a whole lot of terrain, so it's harder to do that. But if you can get if you're on a ridge and the turkey's roosted on the end of this ridge, even in the dark, you can kind of tell where the ridge sides are at. So you can kind of stay along the side of that and get to where you need to go to, and just poke your way along. Now, with that being said, in mountain lion country, I absolutely will use a headlight. Most things don't scare me. Mountain lions, they worry me a lot.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like them. Like most other things I'm good with. Bears, black bears, I don't have a problem with. Mountain lions, a little bit different. I met one in Colorado last year.
What was
in
his
the
name?
dark. We didn't have that conversation. I just called him Cat, and that's his name, Cat. And
awesome.
he worried me a little bit because he was really close, and then he disappeared on me, and that was not. I wasn't happy with that.
Yeah, that's definitely eerie for sure. I've never ran into it. I've never laid eyes on a cat. I've seen tracks, and actually just went out bear hunting a week ago, and it was raining on us basically the whole evening once the sun set. And on our way out, there was a very, very fresh cat track that had to have cut the mountain about 100 yards below us, which would have been in plain sight, but not from where we were sitting. That made a print in the fresh dirt. So that was kind of cool. But as far as like mountain lions go, not discrediting what you're saying, but for whatever reason, I'm almost the opposite. I would much rather run into a mountain lion, for the most part, feeling like I understand. I wouldn't say I understand mountain lions, but I feel like most cats are like more curious than they are like, I want to just kill you. Whereas like I would hate to run into like a grizzly bear in the dark. Total opposite for your spectrum.
Well, grizzly bears are totally different. When I said bear, I meant black bear. Grizzly bears, no, I have no idea. I do not want to meet a black or a grizzly bear in the dark. Black bears generally seem kind of like you were saying with mountain lions. They're more curious, and once they understand what you are, they want no part of that, and they want to get out. So that's been my experience. I mean, I just met one in New York a couple days ago. Same deal. He was walking at me in the dark, and I could tell what he was. And then once he got close enough and he winded me, he got off that mountain super fast. That's generally my experience with black bears. Mountain lions, I guess just because we don't have them here, so I don't have that much experience, but I've seen cats, and I know how stealthy cats are, like house cats, and a mountain lion is a lot bigger, and I want no part of a mountain lion jumping on my back in the dark.
Yeah. I don't blame you at all.
I don't want nothing jumping on my back in the dark.
Right.
No. I wear a neck
Are you
brace
hunting
when I go
turkeys with a shotgun then, Bonce?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. Well, you shouldn't worry about mountain lions then. Because
Why is that?
because they're super easy to kill.
Oh, so you can shoot them with a shotgun?
Oh yeah, 100%. People that chase cats in Montana and tree them and shoot them, the weapon of choice is like a 22 mag or a 22 long rifle.
Yeah, you say that, but again, when you're by yourself, you're climbing up a mountain, and a mountain lion jumps on you. I don't want to have, I just don't want to. I don't want to be in that position.
Oh yeah,
so
they make a living by jumping on deer back, so it's not going to be fun. But
there's a semi comfort level in like the Western hunt though. Like I bought a lid for my backpack, and I specifically wear it high enough back that it literally covers my neck. That way I'm like, in the event that something hits me from behind, at least it's biting my backpack first, and I have a semi chance of not being paralyzed while I'm trying to fight back.
I thought you were going to say that you specifically wear leopard print when you're out there.
I do. That's besides the point though.
And I guess maybe for us, it's just we have grizzly bears, and it's like, that's a lot scarier than a mountain lion.
Yeah, either one of them, they're pretty vicious animals, but yeah, I hear you. I'm with Bonce. I'm scared of the big cats too.
Do you Aaron, were you bear hunting where we elk hunt for archery elk hunt there?
Did I bear hunt there this year?
Is that where you saw the cat track? Is what I'm asking.
No, actually, I was in the Highwood Mountains when I saw that one. I've seen them in the Little Belts, but not in this place.
You're gonna have to beep that out. I didn't want you saying that on the podcast, but okay.
Oh, it doesn't matter. If anyone wants to know, the Highwoods have bears, but they're not like super highly populated, so it's more of a
no. But we have had a bunch of mountain lions on trail cameras up where we've been archery.
Oh, really?
Oh,
no
yeah.
Kidding. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That whole drainage that Justin hiked up when it was raining there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a family of cats that run through there. And I think he actually bumped into him bow hunting.
Oh, no kidding.
And that's a different thing too. When we're bow hunting, I don't want to see a cat when I've got a bow. That's no fun, you know.
Oh, for sure.
Give me something that goes bang.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Totally outside of turkey hunting at this point, but that's like bow hunting. I'll carry that pistol reliably every single time I go out. But like I went that trip last week, I went bear hunting. I got halfway up that first mountain. I'm like, why in the hell did I bring this 10-pound pistol with me? Like, this sucks. Trying to climb the mountain with that any extra weight, I was ready to just leave it on the side because you're out of shape from the winter and the whole nine. You're just like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
You got a rifle with you anyway, but no.
So Bonce, I've got another question for you. When you go, is it just about checking the box of shooting a turkey in that state? Or there's like in Montana, you could probably shoot 9 turkeys a spring or something ridiculous. So would you want to, if you came out to Montana, do you try and shoot multiple turkeys on the trip, or you just buy the tag, shoot the one turkey, and then head to the next state on the list?
Generally it is as soon as I kill a turkey, I'm out. Montana, I was there last year. Very beautiful state, and unfortunately where I hunted burned to the ground apparently last year.
Okay.
After I was there. And
half the state.
That's very saddening to me because that was a really pretty part of the country. But anyway, Montana, I found some birds and I wanted to continue hunting them, so I ended up getting 2 birds. But most of the time, yeah, I'm one and done and get out. Again, depending on the situation, like this year in Louisiana, I had unbelievably good luck, and I understand that this just doesn't happen to people. My first morning in Louisiana, which is arguably one of the hardest states to hunt turkey hunt in, and I had killed a turkey before the sun rose on my first morning. At that time, there wasn't any other state that was in that I needed to check off. So I ended up hunting the next 3 days, I think it was, in Louisiana. So I will stick around for a little bit, but right now my main goal is to check states. So as soon as I kill one in a state, I get out. Once I finish with this, I would honestly like to spend more time in those states. So like the one part of Montana I was in, I was only in a small part of it. Now I drove through all of Montana pretty much last year 2 or 3 times in my meanderings through the West. And I want to hunt the other places in Montana. California, where I was at, was a really pretty state. And I did spend a little bit of time in California hunting other places, but I want to see more places of it. So my main goal with this is to turkey hunt in all the places that they live. So if I killed a bird, like where I killed my bird in Utah, you can only shoot 1 a year in Utah. And I shot my one in that one spot. I don't know that the next time I go back to Utah, that I'll go back to that same location because I want to see other parts of the state.
Right.
Does that kind of answer it? Like I want to see.
Yeah, for sure.
But right now, yeah, it's mostly one and done.
Well, and I know in Montana, especially, you can have very different hunting experiences in very different parts of the states. And I'm guessing I know where you hunted based on the fire last year, or have a good idea potentially, and the 2 turkeys. But yeah, that's what I kind of was wondering. And then I guess the other thing is so have you always, has turkeys always been your holy grail animal to hunt, or how do you motivate yourself to put all of the effort in to turkeys? And I say that because I'm an elk hunter. Turkeys don't, I have a hard time driving, 5 hours across the state to hunt turkeys on private land, because it's tough for me, I guess. For a 25-pound bird or whatever.
Right. It's always been that way for me. So we'll go back quite a few years. And when I was less than a year old, my dad called up a turkey for me in the state of Delaware. And so I was less than 1 year old. He had just wrapped a camo bandana around me, called up this turkey, and had it strutting and gobbling in front of us for like 45 minutes, he said. And pretty much since then, I've been hooked on turkeys. My dad is a traveling turkey hunter who has been turkey hunting for a long time. And I just grew up being a turkey hunter. Now, Sika deer hunting has gotten close to turkey hunting, but it's not quite as prominent as turkeys. Not even close, but it is the next. If I had to rank hunting different animals, Sika deer are next. And they are. Do you know what a Sika deer is?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They're very
little
similar
tiny
to elk. Yeah, but they are very vocal like elk. They taste absolutely delicious, and they are a very tough and challenging hunt. And so I'm sure that if I went elk hunting, elk would be a very strong addiction. And I'm trying to not go elk hunting until I finish this Super Slam. So that way, if I get addicted to elk hunting, which I'm sure I would, I've at least already accomplished this, and I'm not trying to take like 6 months off of a year out of work. I can't afford that.
Right.
No.
So Bonce, I have more of a technical question for you. I'm really, really extremely passive when it comes to calling. And sometimes I think
he usually has guides do it for him.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just wanted to pick your brain. It's kind of a complicated question. Say you're an expert caller. Could you possibly overcall? Anyone, I think a lot of people would recognize that if you're not a very good caller, you could definitely overcall. Let's say you are a world champion turkey caller. Can you overcall, or what's your fine line there? I know a lot of it is you're kind of reading the situation, but what's kind of your take on calling, and when you catch yourself calling too much, or where you cut it off?
Good calling, I think, is only about 10% of it, of the whole game. I mean, knowing when to call is way more important. There are times where you can get really downright aggressive with them, and then there are other times where you really, really can't. And it just depends on reading the temperature of each individual bird and figuring out what that bird is trying to do. And Dave Owens just did a podcast with THP where he kind of breaks this down. He's way better with words than I am, but he kind of broke down his thought process and how he groups individual turkeys, and then how he goes about talking to each one of those groups of turkeys. And like I said, he's not to point your listeners to somebody, to another podcast, but he does a really good job with breaking that down better than I can. But reading that turkey is way more important than how good of a caller you actually are. So if you're a mediocre caller, like, I don't think that I'm that great of a caller. I'm a good caller, but I feel like I have enough experience now. I know when I can call. And those birds that I can get aggressive with, that's honestly one of my favorite ways of doing it. I absolutely love being able to get down and dirty on a call and just have them tearing it up and come running in. I mean, that's what I live for. It just doesn't, most of the time it doesn't happen that way. But
okay, so what would be the cue that I can hammer this bird to death and it's not going to hurt me?
When he's gobbling at a lot of things, or just gobbling at nothing. So if nothing's going on, like no crows, no loud noises, and he's just that bird's hot. And it also depends on how he's moving. So if he's gobbling hard to you and he's willing to come, and you can tell that he's ground, then yes. But you do have to be careful with that, because sometimes those birds, and this is one of the ways that Dave says it, is that they get nervous. And a lot of times you'll find a bird that loves to gobble, but he won't move. He's stuck on a particular bench or a flat or wherever in a field, and he just won't budge out of that field. Then at that point, once you realize that, calling will not help you. Period.
Right.
End of story. He says in that podcast that he killed a bird in Georgia this year where the bird was gobble like that, and he ended up killing the bird by calling once to it first thing in the morning, if I remember right. And then he stayed with the bird until like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and he never made another peep. And the bird gobbled all the time. So you got to learn to read that bird. And really the only way I can say it is to just have experience and to make mistakes. I mean,
right.
There's no shortcuts that you can really take in turkey hunting, but just try it and see. If it doesn't work today, and you find that bird that wants to gobble a lot, and you call and you call and you call and it doesn't work, tomorrow come in and don't call a lot. Try it a different way.
Definitely. Yeah, when you were talking about that, like a whole bunch of my hunts are going through my head as you're describing that scenario, where I remember a couple of them were gobbling together from the same spot. And I was telling my buddy, who at the time was really, only comfortable hunting turkeys in a blind, a new hunter. He wanted to sit in the comfort of a blind. And I'm like, we got to move or we're never going to get these turkeys, and we moved. We waited for him to move off, and we moved, and we got our opportunity at him. So like you said, this great explanation of just learning the turkeys and not being able to, or reading the turkeys and not being able to, or not being afraid to make a mistake or two. Because unfortunately, that's when you do your best learning, if you pay attention to what actually went wrong,
Right. Like I had a bird this year that's kind of a good example of this. He was gobbling really good on the roost. He flew down, and I knew where he was roosted and where he flew down to. And it's this kind of protected little wet spot. And there was a field between me and him, and there was no way I could get from myself to him. And we're also right along a private boundary. And on the private side, there's a much better looking cornfield that was mowed, that was cut, and it was nice and short. The field that was public was kind of overgrown, and I just knew he wasn't probably going to come to that cornfield. Well, I had a hen behind me. She flew down and she went out to that private cornfield. And I knew at that point that the game was over for me, because he was gobbling really good to me, but he would see that hen, and it wouldn't matter at that point what I did, because he was going to go to her. So
right.
I ended up kind of waiting around. I knew at some point that they were going to separate, because it was still earlier in the year. So he was going to breed her at some point. And because it was just one hen, as soon as he left her, he was going to be back on the market and looking for another hen. So I just hung out, and that it happened exactly like I thought it would. After an hour or two, they ended up separating ways. The hen went off, the gobbler started gobbling again. Then I ended up being able to make a really good aggressive move on him. And that was more of putting yourself in the right spot at the right time and being super, super aggressive on that particular bird, but knowing the lay of the land and being able to read the temperature of that bird. He was gobbling really good, but there was some distance between us, only a couple 100 yards, but there was some distance between us. And while he would gobble to me, he would never come my direction. He would walk away from me. So at that point, I knew I needed to get really tight to his bubble if I was going to have a chance of killing this bird, because he wasn't going to walk a distance to come to me. But if I was close to him, then he would walk a few yards to me. But that meant I had to get really close. To also compound the trickiness of this, he was walking away from public, getting onto private, but it's kind of like an L-shaped corner, and he was walking down one of the bottom part of the L, basically, away from public and getting towards the end of that L, which was more private. And once he went that way, I would have no chance. So I ended up running pretty much right at him and calling super aggressively to cover the sound that I was making as I was coming running to him. Ran down, sat down, and as I was sitting down, I looked up, and he was 55, 60 yards from me at that point. And I mean, I was literally moving to sit down at that point. I know most people wouldn't be able to do that. And in most situations, I would never be able to pull that off again. It just happened to be that that was what it took to kill that bird. And I knew I had to get right there. And he ended up walking the next 20 yards and I was able to get that bird. But learning to read that bird and learning to read that situation is key. And that's a place that I've hunted. That's a local spot. And I've hunted that place for years and years and years. And I know I could pull that particular move off. Most places I would never be able to do that.
Right. Yeah, definitely knowing the lay of the land is a huge advantage to have in your back pocket.
Right. And I just, like, I called from that bird from, you know, so basically looking back at that L, I was kind of in the corner of the L and he was towards the end of the L. And I called a couple of times and he would gobble and he was not making any progress towards me. He was working away from me. And I knew that I could sit there and call all day long and he was just not going to come. I had to get aggressive on that bird.
Right. Yeah, great example for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
But
what the heck state are you? Go ahead, finish up there.
I just want to say it's really risky to do because I kind of know how that sounds. And on public land, it's really risky to do that. This particular property is a really small chunk. And I was reasonably certain that nobody else had come in on me because I should have heard the vehicle come in if somebody had. So I was fairly confident that I was by myself on that small chunk of property. Not something that I'm advocating for everybody to do to get that aggressive with the bird. But like I said, there was a lot of there was a lot of factors that went right for me to be able to pull that off. So I don't want our listeners to be able to think, oh, I can just go running at a turkey. No. That's a really good way of getting yourself shot, especially moving like that and calling the entire time. I can see a lot of people taking that the wrong way. It was a very particular situation, and I was able to read it and knew what I was doing and felt confident that I was by myself to be able to pull that off.
For sure.
Right. So what state are you in now?
Now I'm back home. I got to work for a couple of days, and then I will be headed back out to try to finish up New York. I hunted New York a few days last week and really struggled to find birds. And on Tuesday morning, with some bad weather, I finally found a bird on public that I could hunt, and made a very rookie mistake that I know better. Kind of the exact opposite of what I did on that scenario I just said. I tried to get too aggressive with the bird, and he caught me being aggressive, and that was the end of it. So I kind of want to go back and see if I can't play again with him, and then from there I'll be headed to Michigan to finish out. So.
Awesome.
So that bird caught you moving too soon?
Yeah, so that day it was super, super windy. I mean, it was blowing wind, and I was up against a hayfield, and the wind was blowing from the hayfield. I didn't know that there was a turkey there. I had seen a hen there the day before, and I was just like, well, that's the first turkey I've seen in 4 days of being on public land. That's the first turkey I've seen on public land. So we're going to go back there and just see what happens. And I heard a bird gobble, and it was so windy. It was one of those, all right, that was a gobble. I can't tell you what direction that bird gobbled in. And then I owl hooted, and he cut me off, and he gobbled. And I'm still not sure what direction he was in, but I'm like, he's got to be down the field edge, because I walked down one side of the field, so he's just got to be down the field edge. Ended up walking down, called a couple of times once I could tell he was on the ground and he was in the field. And because of the wind, I misjudged the distance that he was. And flipping up, I saw this hen at about 100, 125 yards. So I thought, okay, so he's about 100, 125 yards. I figured he was close to her. And just because it was thick and, everything's really green right now, I figured he was right there, or he was out there at 100 and some yards away. I took another couple of steps and looked up, and he's at like 50 max yards away from me. And he saw me move, and that was it. And I spent the rest of the morning kicking myself really hard and calling myself all kinds of bad names. for making. I just knew better. You know, I knew I should be paying better attention to where I was walking, and I looked down for a couple of steps in a row as opposed to looking up. And sure enough, I stopped and looked up, and he was staring right at me.
Right. And I heard you say something else too I wanted to touch on. Like, this is your thing. You spend a ton of your free time doing this. This is a quest that you're on, and I know you well enough to know you won't stop until it happens. But I heard you say that you went 4 days without hearing a gobble. Did I hear that correctly?
I went more than that.
That's just
Yeah.
On the state. So in this last swing that I was on was 2.5 weeks, and I started out in Rhode Island. I did not get on a bird during legal shooting hours in Rhode Island until the day that I killed, which was day 8. Connecticut, you can hunt all day. So a couple of those days I was bouncing over to Connecticut to hunt the afternoon, and I was not finding birds on public land in Connecticut either. So that was, I just knew it wasn't hearing turkeys. And then when I went to hunt Connecticut full time, I still wasn't finding turkeys on public land. Some of those mornings I would hear a gobble, but it would be off on private land. And then I went to Massachusetts, and Massachusetts treated me exceptionally well. And I really like the state of Massachusetts because I was able to get 2 turkeys in one day. And then I went to New York, and 4 consecutive days I did not hear or see a turkey. A male. I did not see or hear a male turkey until that 5th morning.
wow.
And then when I was in South Florida, so South Florida is a little bit different to me than, and by South Florida, I just mean the South hunt zone versus the North hunt zone. But I killed my bird in 11 days of hunting South Florida on the 11th day of my bird. And in that time frame, I had heard a turkey gobble one day, and that one day was the day that I said earlier about that guy from Mississippi. And so I let him have that bird. So, and the turkey I killed, I didn't even hear him gobble. I was literally just taking a break because it's Florida and it's hot. And so I pulled off my boots, was just sitting there looking at Onyx, trying to figure out where I'd wanted to go next. I had just called before I sat down, and nothing had gobbled. And I looked up, and there's a turkey head, a gobbler head 15 yards from me.
Wow.
So, so I hunt South Florida is a totally different deal. But yeah, there has been many days, especially this year, where I've not heard birds gobble.
Wow. Was
there a follow-up question to that?
No, I think it was just more of a point. Like, for me, what gets me sometimes is I'm hunting in northern Minnesota, and I like to keep expanding and pushing and seeing where there might be turkey. So I'm going into areas that, man, I honestly don't know if there's a turkey there or not, so that can be pretty confusing or frustrating game to play when you're not even sure there's a turkey around, So I think the point is, like, for a new guy out hunting, like, there can be a steep learning curve to turkey hunting, and you can't get discouraged and quit if you don't hear a gobble for days, because an experienced hunter like yourself and an experienced hunter like myself too goes days and days without hearing a single gobble.
You are absolutely correct. And I mean, the way I said it was a little bit of a mistake in that Florida video when I said, and I was trying to impress upon the people that would watch that video that South Florida is just different, and it's hard, and it's a lot harder than most people think. Like I said, I keep a ton of useless stats that I look at when it's turkey season, try to make myself feel better because it's not turkey season. But one of those is I keep a record of how many days it takes me to kill a turkey in a new state. And I had said in that video that at the time, generally 2.5 days for me to kill a turkey in a new state. But there's a lot of states where I'll go days without hearing turkeys gobble. And I mean, this last run in New England is just part of that. It's just, you just got to pay your dues. And I hunt a lot, so I can pay those dues, and then I can get rewarded for those dues. And the law of averages, it'll balance out eventually. But for those guys that don't think it's a hunt, 4 weekends a year, because that's how long their season is. If you are struggling, which can happen to anybody at any time, if you're struggling to locate birds, man, it could be years before you get your luck switches and you can find birds again. I mean, that's just how it goes. I'm just extremely fortunate that I get to, hunt turkeys way more than most people do.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, Aaron here with Light the Fire Outdoors and the Brandon Slaying Podcast with a quick break message to remind you guys to head over to lightthefireoutdoors.com. There you're going to find all kinds of blog content from outdoor writers like Dean Holst, myself, and a host of others, all kinds of faith-based inspiration there, rooted in hunting stories and lessons we've learned afield, which is awesome. We've also got all of our video content from our YouTube channel, plenty more being added this summer. There's a few new episodes out there now. And of course, you can check out all the podcast episodes as well. While you're there, be sure to check out the shop, guys. It's June already. Actually, it's July when this episode launches. So we're going to be right in the thick of shooting season. So get out there, check out our new line of Blackhound optics. These scopes are absolutely awesome. I'm running the 4-14 by 44 first focal plane on my 270. Absolutely loving it. And really, really digging the 6-24 by 50 on my 6.5 300 Weatherby. Just absolutely awesome glass clarity. Great features and a whole host of things that you can expect from Blackhound, and it's not at a price tag that you might expect. They're very, very affordable. They're guaranteed, and we are absolutely loving them. So go check those out as well. You got decals there to show your support of Light the Fire Outdoors and the Brandon Slaying Podcast. Slap them on your cooler, your beer fridge, wherever you guys want to slap a decal. We have them there for you. And also check out our beanies. I know it's June. It's super hot in July, but trust me, it'll be cold and rainy and everything else out there in the field this summer. So grab one of those merino wool beanies. They're going to keep you warm, dry, and I can promise you they'll be the best one you've ever worn. So again, guys, lightthefireoutdoors.com. Show your support, help us out. And as a reminder, 30%, which is all the proceeds, by the way, of lightthefireoutdoors.com purchases, whether it's your Blackhound optic for your rifle this upcoming season, a beanie, or a decal, goes to veterans, conservation, and outdoors ministry outreach. So thanks again, guys. Let's jump back into the episode.
No, that's awesome. So out of all the states you've been, what's your absolute favorite state to hunt?
Hawaii.
Turkeys. Hawaii.
Not even a question.
Because you tanned after those 2.5 days it took you to get a bird, or?
No, because it took me 7 days in Hawaii. Hawaii was not as easy as I thought it was going to be. But Hawaii, because of the, I don't even know how to describe Hawaii. Hawaii was so unique. So where we were renting our house at was down on the beach. So we would leave and get in the Jeep at, dark 30, and it's 80 degrees outside. And you start driving, in an hour and a half, you get up to the top of the mountain. So in Hawaii, there's only a couple of places that you can hunt on public land. There's only one island that you public land, and in that one island, even though there's a lot of public land, you can only hunt in 3 particular units of that. And so everybody's kind of going to the same spot. But when you go up there, we would get out of the Jeep and it would be 10,000 feet elevation or 11,000 feet elevation. And to experience going from 80 degrees to below freezing from when you got into the Jeep to when you get out of the Jeep was incredible. And then to see the sunrise at 11,000 feet with the clouds below you and the turkeys start gobbling below you or around you, it was just, it's memories that were burned in my head, and I will always cherish those memories, because there's nothing else has come close. Like out west was gorgeous. I hunted in some really pretty places in Colorado, Idaho, Washington. Gorgeous places are out west. Hawaii was in a whole different spot. And I'm sure Alaska is very similar. Those sheep hunters that go out sheep hunting, I'm sure experience kind of the same thing. It's just they don't have a turkey gobbling. And then the turkeys, they roost on rocks. Like it's so different in Hawaii and so brutal. And you're going straight up or straight down at 11,000 feet elevation. Like my turkeys that I shot, I think we parked at 10,000 feet. I shot them at about 8,000 feet elevation. So I had in the morning dropped 2,000 vertical feet, and then I had to carry 2 turkeys 2,000 vertical feet back up.
Jeez, that's crazy.
And the footing, it's all rock. You know, there's other places that I have been that are similar in the rockiness, like where I hunted in Arizona was really rocky, where I hunted in California was really rocky, but nowhere is as like fresh, loose rock as Hawaii. So your every footstep, you're risking rolling, or, you know, you're rolling an ankle, you're risking rolling an ankle. So it was really, really cool. And I want to go back to Hawaii every year if I could afford it.
That's awesome. That's very cool. So what species of turkeys do they have down there?
They have Rios. Generally, they're Rio turkeys.
Rio.
And they did import some Merriam turkeys as well. But for the most part, they're Rios, or, you know, some variation of Rios and Merriams.
Okay. Awesome. And then for each one that you killed, did you have to carry a lei in your backpack to put on their neck?
Yes and no. They did actually make that joke when you get your tags, because you're supposed to put the tag around the neck or the leg. So they said put the tag around the neck like it's a leg.
That's awesome. Very
but no,
cool.
it was just cool. And all the other things that Hawaii has. I mean, Hawaii is a great, you know, just destination to go. Anybody who has a wife who does not hunt, please keep this in mind. Go before the season comes in, spend the wife time that you need to, and then you can go hunt. Because if things don't go the way that you wanted, like when I went and we made this plan to go, I went with my wife, Derek, my buddy, went with his wife, my mom and dad went, and his mom and dad went, and my brother went. So we had 5 hunters and 4 women who were not hunting. And I thought, like, oh, this is going to be easy. Hawaii, there's turkeys everywhere. This won't be, this will be easy. So I'll spend 2 or 3 days turkey hunting, and then I can spend the rest of our 8-day trip, you know, with my wife on the beach and doing other Hawaii things. And that didn't work. And I had a very disgruntled wife. So I would say, make sure you do the husband things first, and you spend the time on the beach. You go see the waterfalls, you go snorkeling with the manta rays, which is awesome. You go do all those things, and then you can go hunt, and then you won't have to worry about having an upset wife, because you took her to Hawaii and you abandoned her for 7 days.
That's awesome.
So even in Hawaii, it's happy wife, happy life, even in Hawaii.
Absolutely. And I did not necessarily have a happy wife, but I was also not coming off of that mountain either without a turkey. So that wasn't happening.
That's great, man.
For one of our listeners, or a guy like myself who's not a turkey hunter, and maybe they got inspired and said,
shame on you.
Yeah. Well, anyways, and then they said, hey, I think I could do this. I want to go do this. Where do they start? What's the best way to find out how to do that? What states are easier than others? Are there special drawings? Can some states only hunt turkeys if you get drawn in them? I guess, what are some of the obstacles they might encounter?
So the best thing that I can say is to start watching YouTube videos of different places that you might think that you want to start to get an idea for what kind of, whether it is something that you want to complete the grand plan first, or whether you just want to go shoot a Merriam's if you're from back east, or if you want to shoot an Eastern if you're from out west, or whatever it is. Figure that out first and start researching those states that you want to turkey hunt in first. I would not suggest Rhode Island or Connecticut as those first choices, because they kind of are brutal. But outside of that, I would, pick whatever state, and you can have a good hunt if you do your research in those states. And each state is a little bit different, and I don't want to get into too many specifics, because especially in the Southeast, there is so many changes going on right now in the Southeast with as far as the regulations go, that what I say now very likely will be wrong in the next week or 2 weeks or month. Because the Southeast and a lot of the country actually is dealing with decreasing turkey populations. And it is something that, in my opinion, every single state needs to seriously look at how they have their seasons constructed and start making some adjustments, because some things are going to go down the chute here really, really quick. And I am really concerned for our turkey populations as a whole. There are some places that have a lot of good turkey populations, and even those states, I would caution about how liberal their seasons are, because I can see the writing on the wall. The Southeast used to have really, really good turkey hunting, and because they started early, everybody went to the Southeast. And now the Southeast has some really, really seriously decreasing turkey populations due to a bunch of different factors. It's really been a struggle to kill turkeys down there. I see a lot of other states that are going to have the same thing happen. Texas, or not really Texas, but Oklahoma and Kansas are two other states. The habitat for those Rio turkeys is decreasing. Plus, there have been a bunch of turkey hunters that have hit those states because those states got the reputation of being an easy turkey state. So I'm not going to mention the states that I think might be a little bit easier, because out of due respect to the locals in those states, I don't want to burn those states up more than is already going to happen because of the internet. I mean, you can just get on Instagram and look at the states where everybody's killing turkeys. And there's one state in particular that I am seriously concerned about, because they have a very liberal bag limit, and a lot of people go turkey hunt there, and the word has gotten out, and it's going to be bad in a couple of years if that state does not make some adjustments.
Is that why Alaska is so bad?
No, not yet. But God help Alaska if they open their season and if they open a season and they don't have it by a draw. I'm telling you, it's gonna be bad. Like yeah, because so many people are going to want to be the first ones, myself included. I mean, if I heard that Alaska was opening the season starting tomorrow, you can bet I've got a credit card. I'll go buy the first plane ticket I can to Alaska, and I will be there tomorrow. Screw work, and I know I'm not the only one. Like, there's going to be a bunch. So I just want to kind of impress upon, a lot of those states, you need to start looking at what you're doing. So I'm not going to mention the easy states, but I will say the Southeast is really difficult. But if you can start killing turkeys in the Southeast, you're doing something.
Awesome.
So there are states, and each state is different. Iowa has a draw. Illinois has a draw. My home state of Delaware has one of the stupidest draws. Where are there some draw states? Those are the three that I can think of right off the top of my head. And then even then, some of those states have draws for different WMAs. Like Mississippi has draws for the first part of the season for certain WMAs. Those are obviously better because you're going to have a set number of people. Florida kind of does the same thing. They have a lot of WMAs that are draw WMAs. So generally you can get a little bit better quality hunt out of it, because there's only so many people that get to hunt there and only so many days a year. Really just pick where you want to hunt first, and then start doing the research on those individual states.
For sure. Definitely sound advice. Yeah, because Montana, it's kind of wide, like, not to call it out necessarily, but I mean, it's none of the birds here are native. So I think that has something to do with the way the regulations are drawn, but it's got a mixed bag of draw versus over the counter. But definitely some opportunity for sure, just about anywhere else.
Right. And some of those Western states need to, and I get it, the elk is king out there. I understand. But a lot of those Western states are really going to screw themselves if they don't make some adjustments super fast to their seasons. And then there's some states that are doing it really, really well. And I don't see them having a problem with turkey populations in the future. Utah, for example, you can only kill one in Utah. Wyoming, those are states that they're not terribly difficult states to find turkeys in. They've got a good population, but you can only kill one of them. And I feel like as a traveling turkey hunter myself, I would be fairly happy if a lot of states, and I know I'm shooting myself in the foot for saying this, but I would be happy if a lot of states regulated it to non-residents with one bird per state, because a state like Montana, you can go in and shoot 2 in a day. That you can wipe out kind of a population right there, and you can hurt some birds pretty quickly. You go in there with yourself and a buddy or 2 buddies or something, and you find a population of birds, and a lot of those birds, the Merriams and Rios especially, they hang out in groups, and you take out all of the male birds in that group, and now you don't have your breeders. And if your breeders aren't there to breed the hens, you do that for a couple of years in a row, and your population's gone. So that can be a real big problem. So just my 2 cents from somebody who likes to travel.
Sounds like you might have a background in livestock too.
Well, no, but I understand. I try, as a turkey hunter, I've tried to understand as much about turkey ecology as I can. And I listen to the people who have actually gone to school with this, like Mike Chamberlain. I've listened to what he says, and some of it I agree with, and some of it I don't. But he's done a lot of more research than I have on the subject. So
he's a turkey doctor, right? Is he from Missouri? Yeah. And he's the one that said, he's the one that would claim through his data and research that the toms that get shot, say in early and mid-April, the seasons that you're allowed to hunt there do significant more damage than if they got shot in May. Something to that effect.
Correct. And I know there's a lot of turkey hunters out there that don't want to believe that. And I don't know what the right solution is, because I also want to hunt in March, April, and May. I mean, I want to extend my season as long as I can. However, I know from firsthand experience that if you have a couple of people that come in and turkey hunt in a very small location, and they are consistently killing a lot of male turkeys, your turkey population absolutely will decline very rapidly. I've seen it firsthand, and that was part of the reason which got me to travel, is because I realized, oh crap, we messed up. we need to do something different, which involved me getting out of there. So,
and we could talk for hours on this, but it's not even so much a Tom or a Jake being available to breed a hen. It's more of the natural selection, correct?
Correct. I mean,
made by the hen.
Right. I'm not a turkey biologist in no way, shape, or form. I'm just somebody who loves turkeys. But from what I have read, if you take out the main breeder in that population, now the other gobblers have to figure out who is the boss, which is going to disrupt that whole deal. And one of the things that I personally don't like, that I think impacts that really tremendously, is male turkey decoys. And I know, I understand what I'm saying and who I'm saying it to, and that, Tacticam has a turkey reaper decoy and all that stuff. But personally, I think that is very detrimental to the turkey populations, because it's feeding off of that dominant bird mentality, and it makes you kill those dominant birds. Whereas myself, when I go in, that dominant bird is generally with hens. So the birds that I look for are those subordinate 2-year-olds that are hanging on the outskirts of that population. That's my target audience, to be honest, is those 2-year-olds that still want some loving, but they're not, they don't want to mess with the big boy either. That's my bread and butter.
So you hunt turkeys like Jeremy hunts elk. He's looking for them satellite bulls.
Exactly. So, like I said, I don't know elk hunting. I want to elk hunt, and
sounds like you're going to be very good at it. I mean, you're literally talking exactly how most people elk hunt. They're calling and the bulls are gobbling back, and then they skirt around and look for those 2-year-olds out skirting the flock.
I have seen a lot of similarities, and I'll be honest, I think a lot of your good elk hunters could be hell on some turkey populations if they decide to start turkey hunting, because the two processes are very similar. So
Jeremy, what's going on, man? You seem to be struggling with the birds.
Well, you know, it's the motivation factor. It's the fact that, you know, I'll drive 3,000 miles in a fall just to go chase elk every single weekend. But with turkeys, it's, you know, it's a bird.
Why
spend $300 a weekend to go chase a bird?
Well, that's the thing. You spend $300, but at least you get a bird, you know?
Well, yeah.
That's my philosophy. Have 5 tags in your pocket, and where's my 300 miles going to get me?
Hey, Bonce, you got to plan your schedule a couple years in advance, right?
I do.
Good.
So what year are you finally going to grace the great state of Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes, with your presence?
I had planned to be there about 2 weeks ago.
Really?
I did originally, and then I'm trying to remember which state it was. With Minnesota, I think, was the one that has the season. You've got to buy the different tags. And when for some reason, am I not paying enough attention to this? I just thought that I would be able to walk into Minnesota and buy a tag. And when coming up on my trip, I looked at it, and the next available tag started May 19th. And I was leaving my house. My vacation started May 9th. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work, because that gives me 10 days. And I'm like, it shouldn't take me 10 days to kill a turkey in Wisconsin, hopefully, knock on wood. But like, what would I do after, you know, if I killed in Wisconsin, where would I go? You know, so I'm always thinking of that plan B and C and D.
Yeah.
And so that didn't work. And then I'm like, well, I really need the Northeast as well. You know, I still lack Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. So, and at the time I lacked Rhode Island and Massachusetts as well. So I was like, well, why don't I just go up to the Northeast and I can hit those states and knock those states out? So I was planning to be there 2 weeks ago. That didn't happen. Now I'm hoping to get there next year, because I would, depending on some other factors, between me and my wife, I would like to get there next year, but we will see if I'm able to travel.
How did I know she was going to come up?
Yeah. So we'll see how much traveling I get to do next year or not. But yeah, I want to get out there. My buddy hunted right near
interesting.
California.
Oh, did he? Okay. That's kind of interesting. That I'm not quite sure what happened, because I know the seasons run like A, B, C, D, E, and then F. They run from Wednesday to Tuesday, and you can buy a tag over the counter anytime at any season. So say that you were in Wisconsin and then you wanted to come to Minnesota, you could actually buy an E season tag. And then you could actually, if you don't get a bird in E season or any of the previous seasons to F, then you can hunt all of F season. So you could potentially hunt, because F season is actually, this year was the 19th through the 31st, you could actually hunt E season. And if you didn't get one, you could hunt F season. So you could hunt potentially like almost 3 weeks in a row.
Gotcha. Yeah, like I said, when I looked at, I don't remember what state it was that I looked at, but one was either Wisconsin or Minnesota. I couldn't hunt until the 19th. That was their next available tag. And that was my own lack of thought process beforehand, because I would have just bought my tag, you know, when they were available. But I overlooked it and was thinking I could walk in and buy a tag. And I'm sure due to COVID and other turkey hunters being from those states and doing really well, it has made the population, you know, it's made a lot of people want to go hunt those states, which brings me back to my point of they really need to, in my opinion, look at what they're doing. Otherwise, they're going to end up with a very rapidly decreasing turkey population.
Right. One good thing that Minnesota does, it is one turkey one spring turkey, one fall turkey per hunter.
And that helps.
Right.
Like Connecticut, you can legally shoot 5 turkeys in the spring, but God help you, you could shoot 5 turkeys if you can find 5 turkeys on public land.
Well, and
God help you.
And maybe that's part of it, though, because I mean, you know, Montana, for all intents and purposes, a pretty liberal tag opportunity for turkeys, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, you're going to find most of those birds on public or on a private land. And I think part of maybe the reason the tag draws are the way they are is because you get some landowners out where Jeremy's talking about driving 5 hours to, and where I just went out and killed my bird a couple weeks ago. It's, for all intents and purposes, it's 100% or private land. And you've got landowners that are saying, dude, I'm tired of these damn birds piling up by the hundreds, tearing up my haystacks in the fall. It's like getting a bad herd of deer in there or something. They hate them. And that's, I have to imagine the reason you can go out to where we hunt and kill 2 birds a season, your general plus a region specific tag, is probably because of that. It's like, hey, let's help out the landowners how we can. Is Connecticut the same way, or?
Well, Connecticut used to be, you could hunt, or you could shoot 3 on private land and 2 on public land, if I'm remembering correctly. And then they switched it. And this is just my opinion. I have no real basis in fact in this, but I feel like it is a lot of the people who have flower gardens and they're trying to feed all the other birds that are out there, and they got tired of watching turkeys poop all in their yards and eat their flower beds. And just like you were saying with Montana and the hay, they were being a pest and pecking their bumper and, all the other stuff. And they're doing that kind of thing. And so the people who saw that complained to the Fish and Game Department, and and that's what made that change. The only problem with Connecticut that I have found is that most of those people don't want you to hunt their property. They don't like guns. They don't like hunters. And so they want these turkeys taken care of, but they're not willing to make the exception to allow that. Whereas I know Montana, because I had a friend this year who went and did what you guys are talking about. And, the landowner was very, very thankful that somebody was willing to come out here and shoot a couple of these turkeys, because they were really tired of having them be such a nuisance. So a little bit different mentality. I think
that's a good point.
People from Montana are nicer. My experience, people from Montana are nicer than people from Connecticut, with the exception of people that we know of that are on this team. Those 2 people are really great. A lot of other people, I got a low opinion of Connecticut right now.
No, we get it, man. And I think from what I hear, at least the buzz around Montana is if you want to put a few posters up in Connecticut, there's a lot of vacancies in California right now that need filled.
Right.
That people can be more than happy to go move out there and watch sunsets and everything else. So.
Hey, Bonce, it's been great, man. I appreciate everything that you shared with us, and you're definitely going to help me be a better turkey hunter, and hopefully maybe we can work something out for Minnesota in the next year or 2.
Yeah, that sounds good, because I'll probably, like I said, I'm hoping to be out there next year. So
yeah,
awesome, man.
And I'm right on the border of Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Yeah. So
I always forget to apply for a Wisconsin tag because it's like around Christmas or something,
Right.
We're gonna have to get out with the great Bonce. We're gonna have to do like a turkey camp rigged, a reenactment of Iowa turkey camp here sometime. I don't know where it's gonna be, what state it's gonna be in, man, but we got to do it this year. That'll be sweet. So I have one final question. So you've hunted all over the United States, 39 states so far. You've hunted, I assume, all but maybe one of all possible turkey species. What's your favorite bird to hunt so far between like Eastern Merriam, Rio, or whatever other turkeys you've hunted?
Easterns, for sure, without a doubt. Easterns are my favorite because of the way that they gobble. That's why I turkey hunt. I'm sure, Jeremy, as being an elk hunter, you live for that bugle. That bugle is what gets you fired up. That makes it. To me, that gobble is what makes it. And I love Merriam's turkeys, because true mountain Merriam turkeys, because the terrain is so tough. But that gobble of an Eastern hardwoods gobble, there is nothing else that drives my soul like that. That makes me get the shakes. That makes me just, makes my heart race. That's what does it for me. So
that's awesome. 100%. No, that's cool.
So what you're saying is I need to go find an Eastern to really get my turkey hunting drive on then.
Oh yeah, you need to absolutely go to hunt an eastern turkey that is a challenging bird. I mean, and that can be anywhere. That could be any state, could be difficult depending on the time of year and just that particular bird. But find one that really makes you work for it, like an elk would. You know, that one of those elk that you've got to make a lot of plays to get to the right position, and it just takes all of your skills to get there, to get to that point. And it takes all of those coin flip situations that could go wrong, but they go right. If you do that, I guarantee you'll be a turkey hunter after that.
I love it, man. No, that's fantastic. And he's right, Jeremy. I thought the same thing when you and I were talking on a previous podcast about, you kind of being halfway in, halfway out on turkeys. That's exactly what Bonce just said, was kind of in the back of my mind. Like, I think you just haven't had the right turkey experience yet, because it's just as much or more exciting than just about anything else you can hunt.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, Bonce, you have officially broken the ice of being our very first guest. I don't know if there's anybody else we would have rather had on. Absolutely turkey hunting God, like John said earlier, man. So one more time, just plug your YouTube channel here real quick, so everybody knows where to find you and go find those videos of all those birds you've been hammering, and we'll get off here.
Cool. Yeah. So my YouTube channel is just Google or YouTube, the Bayside Legion. The website is thebaysidelegion.com. We've got t-shirts, hats, gun rests, knee pads. What else we got? Turkey totes on there. And then you can follow us on social media. Facebook, we're the Bayside Legion. Instagram and TikTok, we are _Bayside_Legion.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, we're probably done for releasing videos so far from this year, but we're going to start at the end of January or the beginning of February for the rest of our season. So right now, we have 9 episodes that are out from this particular season, but we also have 40 episodes from last season, 40 episodes from the season before that, plus a mixture of swan hunts, waterfowl hunts, deer hunts, Sika hunts, all kinds of crabbing videos.
So no shortage of content. So if you are worried about finding his most recent up-to-date videos, you got a ton of catching up to do anyway. That's perfect.
Correct.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
Thanks, Bonce. Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you guys for having me on and being the first guest. That's I feel pretty special about that.
Heck yeah, man. No one else would rather have on. That's awesome, man. Perfect time for our Turkey Taker series. That's awesome. Jeremy, you got any anything you need?
I don't think so.
All right, guys. Well, very cool, man. Well, I'm going to shut her down here. And thanks again, Bonce. We look forward to having you on the next time, talking about some more hunting tactics. And hopefully we can all catch up here and get maybe Jeremy on his first Eastern hunt. If we can all link up and do sounds like a Minnesota hunt might be underway for next year.
You know it. You betcha.
Don's got the camper and White Claws ready, boy. We're going to get it.
Oh, gosh, that's dangerous.
All right, boys. Take care.
All right, guys.
All right.
See you. Thanks again, Bonce.
We'll see you guys.
Man, what an awesome episode, and what a resource Bonce is when it comes to all things turkey hunting, man. And just listening to him talk about his whole journey and everything, it just really makes me reflect on a lot of things that we have going on. But really where this part 2 started was in gaining permission on ground, private ground specifically, but private, in public ground, it's kind of a permission for all of us to be there and enjoying the resource. And it reminds me of Luke 6:31 that says, "Do to others as you would have them do to you." Guys, that's the golden rule. That's what everything's all about, right? So, when we're talking about getting permission on someone's private property, something that they, have invested in, they've got time and energy and money and everything else spent in something that they own and they take pride in. The one thing that we can do is just treat them, when we walk up and ask permission, treat them as if it was someone coming up to your door and asking you. And, and when you're utilizing that resource, man, leave it better than you found it in the whole 9, because exactly, if you own that piece of property, that's what you would want. And the same goes with our public resources. We talked a lot about public land in this episode. and a lot in part 1 as well, guys. And that's just it's a diminishing resource, and it's really hard to gain more of that as it goes away. And, the one thing that we can do as sportsmen to keep that going is just keep treating that ground like we own it, as if we'd want someone to treat it if it was our ground and they were utilizing it. So with that, guys, go out there, love on somebody today, do to others as you would have them do to you. And thanks for listening to the Praying and Slaying podcast. As always, we love you. God bless. Go check out lightthefireoutdoors.com and keep praying and slaying.